Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over briefly how to disassemble your Survivair Opti-Fit mask. As a brief overview, this mask can go under a few names for the slightly different styles of it. So this one has three 40mm NATO connectors. This is the 7630 CBRN Tactical, I guess, because it has the NATO connectors. You can also find the more modern version of this called the Honeywell RU6500. That will have the singular 40mm in the front, but on the sides will have the Honeywell North proprietary connectors, so you'll have to get their filters if you wanted to put a filter on this. The older Firefighter models of this are a little odd. I don't actually know what kind of connector it is in the front. I believe it's for their self-contained breathing apparatus systems, which have like the giant gas canisters on the back. Those ones also don't have any connectors or even holes on the left and right side. You can find that one pretty cheap, but again, you're not likely to find something that you can add a filter onto it for. There's another model of the Opti-Fit that does have these side connectors and no front connector, but it has a sort of like horizontal grill. Any of these you can find used or from a surplus supplier on eBay, usually. Though the newest ones, the RU6500s by Honeywell, you can usually find from the actual manufacturer. Okay, so let's get into the disassembly of this. The tools that you'll need really are just a hex key. This is a 9/64 size, though it does feel a little bit loose, so you might need to actually use like a 4mm metric hex key instead, but this should work. The other thing you would need is a quarter to take care of the plugs, and I would recommend a glove since some of the edges on this can be kind of sharp and they will pinch and hit your fingers badly. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the plugs. You might need to get some pliers to add extra torque. And it's much easier with that little bit of extra leverage you can get. And those pop right out. Each of these masks does only come with two, because obviously you need one of these holes to be open so you can breathe through it. Now, to take off the front plate, you'll see these two tabs and this little lip on the bottom. You're going to want to push up on the lip while pinching these two tabs. It'll pop right off. Now you'll see these raised sides here. You're going to want to push in and down on one of those. This is maybe a good place to use a glove, just so you don't jam your thumb in there. See, my thumb did slide in there and that would have scraped against the plastic. At this point, the whole mouthpiece can come right out. Now with the connectors, you're going to need to push up on this hook to get it over the latch, while twisting it counterclockwise to get it off. This is also maybe a place where you'd want to use a glove. The rim of this tends to be kind of sharp, so I like to take a piece of fine grit sandpaper and go along the edges of it, just to kind of take the edge off of that, especially, you know, if you're wearing this with latex. You don't want it to catch and cut that. When you take off your connectors, pay attention to the rings here. You can leave them in, but if you're afraid they might fall out, you can go ahead and take them out and set them aside. Just don't lose them. You'll have to remember to put them back in later. Now that's the amount of disassembly that you're likely going to want to do before you clean this, because as you can see here, water tends to hide in like the lip of this thing, because it will also hide inside these when this is closed, and it might be sealed and you just won't know that there's water in there until you put this thing on and start breathing. An optional bit of disassembly that you can do to make things a little bit easier going forward is to remove the 5-point head strap. This is a bit of a chore to get done, but I'll go ahead and show you how you would do it, just in case you want to take it off before removing the outer ring, or if you wanted to say replace this with something that was less rubbery or more comfortable. This is a quite durable system, however, and very easy to adjust. To take it off, you're just going to need to get this little plastic hook thing through the tiny hole that it's pushed through. Again, this is very durable, so you can stretch it pretty well. Then, you want to push back on this plastic piece while pushing forward on the metal ring, pop it out of there. To take this piece out, you're going to want to pull it through in this direction. Now it does become flared out here to stop it from sliding through super easily, but you can just get it through with a little bit of twisting and finagling. Again, this is durable, so you're not likely to tear it, but I would be a little careful. Just repeat that for all 5 parts, and then you could take the whole thing off, and maybe replace it with canvas straps if you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and put it all back on though. Keep note of which side the ribs are on. There we go. Then we gotta fit this piece through the tiny little hole there. There you go. Now to actually take this outer ring off, we're gonna need the hex key. This one's coming apart a lot easier than some of my other ones, so it might be a little tighter on yours. Now that the screws are taken out, we can go ahead and take off the outer shell, which is connected to the 5-point head strap. Next, we can simply remove the rubber gasket that seals it to your face. And now we have the standalone lens. That should be everything disassembled. If you wanted to give everything a very thorough cleaning, this would be a great time to do it, and definitely let it dry before putting it back together so you don't get water hiding in the little nooks and crannies. Now we can get back into the reassembly of this thing. You can basically work in reverse, but I find that it's a little bit easier to actually start with the mouthpiece since you don't have this outer rim getting in the way. The front piece pretty easily snaps back onto place, but you're going to want to make sure that you hook the top part in first. Don't forget your little rubber rings. There's a small tab at the back where this piece goes. Now let's get the face seal back on. You've got this lip that has to go around the outer edge. You'll notice that there are some small seams on the top and bottom, and you can usually line that up with some small seams on your mask as well. No, I got a little bit of bubbling there. Hold on. Now, this is definitely the time you're going to want to check for any more air bubbles, or maybe pieces of dust that got under, or even hairs. Fix your tint before you put the hard shell back on. This is the most annoying part because it is a big piece of hard plastic connected to a bunch of loose straps. Sometimes you can look on your rubber seal and find little marks here that indicate where the 2 rubber pieces should meet. And that's going to be your best way of lining this thing up. Make sure your 5-point strap isn't twisted. Now let's get these 2 parts to meet as much as we can before we put the screws back on. This is another part where, because you are pushing on the rubber seal on the outside, you might start causing the tint to bubble up again. And then get your screws back in. I generally find it easier to pull the strap forward. And there we have it.